Empress Calithria sat alone in the observation deck of her massive dreadnought flagship, the Eternal Claw. The twin suns of the Viridian system were setting through the reinforced viewports, painting the darkness of space in shades of orange and deep purple. Her wheelchair hummed softly beneath her, a sleek anti-grav unit adorned with imperial crests that had become as much a part of her identity as the scales that covered her ancient body. She positioned herself carefully before a small cake sitting on the metal table in front of her. One single candle flickered in the recycled air of the ship, its tiny flame dancing like it was uncertain whether it should keep burning. 2,000 years. That's how long she'd ruled the Dragon Empire. 2,000 years of decisions, battles, treaties, and endless ceremonies. And for the first time in centuries, maybe the first time in a millennium, not a single soul remembered her birthday. The irony wasn't lost on her. She ruled 40 star systems. Billions of reptilian beings across dozens of worlds called her their Empress. Her name was spoken with reverence, sometimes with fear, always with respect. Children learned about her in their history lessons. Admirals saluted her image. Priests invoked her name in their prayers. She was everywhere in the empire, present in every corner of their civilization. And yet, she had never felt more alone. The observation deck was massive, designed to host gatherings of high-ranking officers and visiting dignitaries. Right now it felt too big, too empty. The silence pressed against her like a physical weight. She could hear the distant hum of the ship's engines, the soft whisper of the life support systems, the occasional footstep of a guard patrolling somewhere far down the corridor. But no voices, no laughter. No one coming to share this moment with her. Calithria stared at the candle. She should blow it out. She should make a wish like she'd done when she was young, back before the weight of empire settled on her shoulders. Back when birthdays meant something other than another year added to an already impossible number. But what would she wish for? More years? She had plenty of those. More power? The empire stretched as far as it reasonably could. More respect? Her people practically worshipped her. What she wanted, she realized, was something far simpler and infinitely more complicated. She wanted someone to remember. Not the eternal Empress. Not the dragon who saved the Viridian colony from a dying star. Not the tactical genius who united 40 systems. Just Calithria. The person inside all those titles and legends. Her hand moved toward the candle, ready to extinguish it and end this moment of self-pity. That's when the alarms started blaring. Red lights flashed across the observation deck as her security systems activated. Calithria's tactical display materialized in the air before her, showing a battered human freighter limping into her flagship's docking bay. The small ship was trailing plasma and leaking coolant, clearly on its last legs. Her first instinct was to let the automated defenses handle it. Unauthorized vessels entering Imperial space were destroyed without question. That was protocol. That was how things worked. Her finger hovered over the command to activate the weapon systems. But something made her hesitate. Maybe it was the birthday melancholy making her sentimental. Maybe it was curiosity about these strange mammals she'd heard so much about but rarely encountered. Maybe it was just the desperate hope that something, anything, would break the suffocating loneliness of this day. She canceled the weapons authorization and watched as the damaged freighter made an emergency landing in her docking bay. On her security feeds, she saw the airlock cycle open. A human emerged, male she thought, though she was still learning to tell them apart. He was covered in grease stains, his clothes worn and patched in multiple places. His face showed exhaustion in every line, the kind of tired that comes from weeks or months of constant stress. And in his arms, he carried a small human child, a female offspring who clutched a worn stuffed animal against her chest. The man stumbled, caught himself, then dropped to one knee. Not in the proper Imperial protocol, he clearly had no idea how to address a dragon empress. He knelt the way desperate people do, the way someone does when they've run out of options and are throwing themselves on the mercy of whoever has the power to help or destroy them. Through her security audio, Calithria heard him speak. His Draconic was broken, heavily accented, clearly learned from translation programs rather than proper instruction. But his message was clear enough. "Please," he said, his voice cracking with exhaustion and fear. "We're not spies. Not soldiers. Engine's dead. Just need repairs and we'll go. I can work. I can fix things. Please don't hurt my little girl." Calithria watched the scene through her displays. She could order them detained. She could have them interrogated and then sent away. She could follow protocol and maintain the distance that had defined her reign for centuries. That would be the proper Imperial response. Instead, she found herself studying the way the man held his daughter, the protective curve of his body around her small frame. She noticed how the child peeked around her father's shoulder, eyes wide with fear but also with the strange resilience children seem to possess. And she realized something that surprised her. When this human looked at her wheelchair-bound form through the security cameras, he didn't see an eternal Empress. He didn't see a living legend or a divine ruler. He saw another person who might show mercy to his child. He saw someone real. And that, Calithria decided, was exactly what she needed on her birthday. Something real. Someone who would look at her and see a person instead of a monument. She activated her communication system and gave orders that would shock her staff. She was going to meet these humans personally. No guards between them. No formal protocols. Just her and these unexpected visitors who had stumbled into her life on the loneliest day she could remember. As her wheelchair hummed to life and she began moving toward the docking bay, Calithria glanced back at the forgotten cake with its single flickering candle. Maybe this birthday wouldn't be completely unmemorable after all. Tyler expected chains. He expected a cold cell with energy bars humming between him and freedom. He expected armed guards and harsh interrogation lights, maybe truth serums or whatever terrifying technology a civilization this advanced used to extract information from trespassers. What he absolutely did not expect was to be escorted through gleaming corridors to an observation deck that looked more like a luxury penthouse than a military vessel. The guards, massive reptilian beings in ceremonial armor, positioned themselves by the entrance but didn't follow him inside. Tyler held his daughter closer, little Mia's face buried against his shoulder, her stuffed bunny clutched tight in her small fists. The observation deck stretched out before them, all polished metal and transparent viewports showing an impossible view of stars and distant nebulas. And there, in the center of it all, sat the Empress herself. Tyler had seen images before, of course. Everyone in human space had heard of the Dragon Empress who ruled 40 systems. But pictures didn't capture the reality of her presence. She was enormous, easily 3 times his height even seated in that strange floating wheelchair. Her scales shimmered like molten gold in the light of the setting suns outside, and her eyes, ancient, intelligent eyes, studied him with an intensity that made him feel like she could see straight through to his soul. Holographic displays floated around her, showing what Tyler recognized with a sinking heart as his ship's diagnostic reports. Every failing system, every jury-rigged repair, every desperate patch job he'd done over the past 6 months was laid bare in glowing blue text and red warning indicators. "Your quantum drive is burnt out," she said, and Tyler nearly jumped out of his skin. She spoke perfect English, not the mechanical translation he'd expected but fluid, natural English with barely an accent. "Your life support has maybe 48 hours. Your hull plating is older than most civilizations." She paused, those ancient eyes fixed on him. "How did you even get this far?" Tyler managed a weak smile, though his heart was hammering in his chest. Stubbornness. Duct tape. Prayer to gods that probably don't listen. To his surprise, something flickered across the Empress's face. Not anger or contempt, but something almost like recognition. Maybe even amusement. Mia chose that moment to peek out from against his shoulder, her bright blue eyes going wide as she took in the dragon woman for the first time. "She's pretty," Mia whispered, and Tyler felt his face go hot with embarrassment. But the Empress's expression softened. "Thank you, small one. What's your name?" "Mia. I'm 5.5. That's my daddy. His name is Tyler and he fixes spaceships, but ours is broken because we had to run away from the bad debt collectors who wanted to take me away because mommy died and we couldn't pay the hospital bills anymore." The words tumbled out in that rapid-fire way children had of sharing their entire life story to strangers. Tyler closed his eyes, mortified. "Mia, honey, the Empress doesn't need to know all that." "Actually," Calithria said slowly, "context is useful." She manipulated the holographic displays, pulling up more detailed scans of the ship. The Rusty Promise. Interesting name for a vessel held together by hope and desperation. She looked back at Tyler. "You're not running from anything illegal, are you? No stolen cargo? No crimes beyond not paying medical debt that should never have existed in the first place?" Tyler shook his head. "Just trying to make a living on the frontier. Freelance mechanic work. We take jobs where we can find them. Repair stations, mining colonies, anywhere that needs someone who's good with their hands and doesn't ask too many questions." He swallowed hard. "We accidentally jumped into your space because our navigation system glitched. Didn't mean to trespass. Didn't mean to cause any trouble." Calithria was quiet for a long moment, studying the diagnostic reports. Then she did something Tyler never expected. She smiled. It was a small smile, sad around the edges but genuine. "I'm going to make you an offer," she said. You can use my flagship's workshop to repair your ship. Full access to tools and materials. In exchange, I want your honest assessment of my fleet's human-manufactured components. We've been acquiring technology through trade, but I suspect we're not maintaining it properly. Tyler blinked. That's it? No prison? No interrogation? Should there be? Calithria asked, one scaled eyebrow rising. I mean, we did violate your space. Your ship is falling apart, you have a child depending on you, and you're clearly running on empty in every sense of the word. What exactly would imprisoning you accomplish? She gestured to the holographic displays. Besides, I have a feeling you're exactly what this ship needs. When was the last time you ate a proper meal? Tyler tried to remember. 2 days? 3? We've been rationing supplies. Calithria made a sound that might have been disapproval or sympathy. Tyler couldn't quite tell. There's a commissary on Deck 7 that can synthesize human-compatible food. My staff will show you there first. Then you'll sleep. Tomorrow we'll discuss the repairs. Why are you being so nice to us? The question slipped out before Tyler could stop it. The Empress's smile faded, replaced by something Tyler recognized because he'd seen it in the mirror often enough lately. Loneliness. Deep, aching loneliness that no amount of power or respect could fill. Let's just say, she said quietly, that sometimes broken things understand each other. Mia squirmed in Tyler's arms, wanting down. He set her carefully on the deck, keeping a firm grip on her hand. But she pulled free and walked right up to the Empress's wheelchair with the fearless confidence only small children possessed. Is it your wheelchair that makes you sad? Mia asked, tilting her head. My mommy had a wheelchair before she got too sick. She said wheels didn't make her sad though. She said it was when people forgot she was still just mommy inside. Tyler moved to pull Mia back to apologize for the inappropriate question, but Calithria raised one clawed hand to stop him. She stared at the little girl for a long moment, and Tyler could have sworn he saw moisture gathering in those ancient eyes. Your mother, Calithria said softly, was very wise. She was the best mommy ever, Mia agreed. Then, with the brutal honesty of childhood, she added, but she died anyway. Daddy says sometimes the universe isn't fair. Is the universe not fair to you too? Calithria looked from Mia to Tyler and back again. Yes, she admitted. Sometimes it isn't. Then we should be friends, Mia declared. Because friends help each other when the universe is mean. Right, Daddy? Tyler felt like the floor had dropped out from under him. Here was his 5-year-old daughter, making friends with an Empress who ruled 40 star systems. An Empress who could crush them with a thought. An Empress who, instead of being offended by a child's bluntness, looked like she might actually cry. Right, Tyler managed to say. Friends help each other. Then it's settled, Mia said happily. We're friends now. Do you like birthday cake? There's one over there but it looks old. And that's when Tyler noticed it, a small cake on a side table, a single candle burned down to a nub. A forgotten birthday celebration for an Empress who ruled countless worlds but celebrated alone. Something in his chest tightened. He understood loneliness. He understood being forgotten. He understood what it meant to keep going when everything inside you wanted to stop. Happy birthday, he said quietly. Calithria met his eyes and in that moment, something passed between them. Understanding. Recognition. The knowledge that sometimes the most powerful person in the room and the most desperate are separated by nothing more than circumstances. Thank you, she whispered. It's been a very long time since anyone said that. Late that night, after Mia had finally crashed in the guest quarters, exhausted from exploring every corner she was allowed to see, Tyler found himself back in the observation deck. He probably should have been sleeping too. God knew he was tired enough. But his mind wouldn't stop racing, and he'd learned long ago that when his brain refused to shut down, the best thing to do was keep his hands busy. Calithria was still there, silhouetted against the viewport where distant stars painted the darkness with pinpricks of light. She didn't seem surprised to see him, just gestured to the seat across from her. Except Tyler didn't sit. His eyes had caught on something, and once a mechanic sees a problem, it's nearly impossible to look away. She kept adjusting her wheelchair. Small movements, barely noticeable unless you knew what to look for. A slight shift to the left. A micro-adjustment to the anti-grav settings. The way she occasionally pressed her hand against her lower back when she thought he wasn't watching. Tyler had spent enough time around machinery, and around his late wife's medical equipment, to recognize the signs. Can I ask you something? He said, moving closer. And I mean no disrespect, but when's the last time that wheelchair was serviced? Like really serviced, not just surface maintenance. Calithria's expression hardened slightly, that imperial mask sliding back into place. My chair functions adequately. That's not what I asked. Tyler crouched down, examining the base of the wheelchair without touching it. His trained eye caught the telltale signs immediately: stress fractures in the housing, outdated power couplings, anti-grav emitters that were working overtime to compensate for failing components. This is at least 3 centuries old. Maybe older. The anti-grav actuators are compensating for degraded components throughout the whole system. You must be in constant pain. Calithria stiffened, her clawed hands gripping the armrests. I've worn this chair since the Viridian supernova. It's part of me now. Part of who I am. It's hurting you, Tyler said bluntly, standing up to meet her eyes. Why haven't you upgraded? Your technology is centuries beyond this. I've seen the medical bay on this ship. It's incredible. So why are you using equipment that belongs in a museum? For a long moment, Calithria said nothing. The silence stretched between them, broken only by the soft hum of the ship's systems. Tyler wondered if he'd pushed too far, if he'd crossed some line that would get him thrown in that cell he'd been expecting all along. Then quietly she spoke. Do you know what happens when you become a legend? People stop seeing you as a person. They see a symbol. A monument. Something eternal and unchanging. Her voice was soft but heavy with centuries of weight. This chair is part of that symbol. I wore it when I held a dying star in a containment field long enough for 3 million civilians to evacuate Viridian Colony. The injury that put me in this chair? That's what made me more than just an empress. It made me a martyr. A hero. Someone who sacrificed her body for her people. Tyler listened, his mechanic's mind already racing through possibilities, but he kept quiet. This felt important. If I change the chair, Calithria continued, if I admit it causes me pain, if I show any weakness, what does that say about the eternal Empress? What happens to the legend when people remember she's just flesh and blood? She laughed, but there was no humor in it. I've spent 300 years being strong. Being unchanging. Being the rock upon which this empire stands. How do I suddenly admit I'm crumbling? Tyler thought about his wife. About how she'd refused to use her wheelchair at first because she thought it meant giving up, meant admitting defeat. About how she'd finally broken down crying in their kitchen, exhausted from the pain of pretending she was fine. About how he'd held her and told her that asking for help wasn't weakness, it was the bravest thing she could do. You know what I think? Tyler said carefully. I think you've got it backward. You're not strong because you ignore the pain. You're strong despite it. You've been ruling 40-star systems while sitting in equipment that's slowly breaking down, probably making every decision through a fog of constant discomfort. That's not weakness, that's terrifying. Calithria's eyes widened slightly. But here's the thing, Tyler continued. Just because you can survive the pain doesn't mean you should. My wife used to say that just because you're tough enough to carry a heavy load doesn't mean you have to carry it alone. Doesn't mean you can't accept help. Doesn't mean you can't make things easier on yourself. Your wife sounds like she was remarkable, Calithria said softly. She was. Right up until the end. Tyler's throat tightened, but he pushed through. And one of the last things she told me was that she regretted waiting so long to accept help. She said she wasted so much time trying to prove she was still strong instead of just being herself. Pain and all. Calithria was quiet again, but Tyler could see something shifting in her expression. Walls coming down maybe. Or at least developing cracks. The truth is, Tyler said, your people don't need you to be in pain to respect you. They need you to be effective. And you can't be fully effective when your equipment is fighting you every step of the way. He gestured to the wheelchair. Let me rebuild it. Not replace it, I get that it's meaningful. But let me update it, reinforce it, make it something that works with you instead of against you. You'll still be the same Empress who saved those 3 million people. You'll just be able to do your job without suffering every single day. And if my court sees it as weakness? Then your court is full of idiots who don't understand the difference between strength and stubbornness. Tyler surprised himself with his own bluntness, but he didn't take it back. Sorry, but it's true. Real strength is knowing when something isn't working and having the guts to change it. Calithria studied him for a long moment, her ancient eyes searching his face. You're either very brave or very foolish to speak to an empress this way. Probably both, Tyler admitted. But I'm also right. You know I am. A small smile tugged at the corner of Calithria's mouth. Yes, I suppose you are. She looked down at her wheelchair, really looked at it, maybe for the first time in decades. 300 years. I've been living with this pain for 300 years and telling myself it didn't matter. That I could handle it. That showing any vulnerability would somehow diminish everything I'd built. It wouldn't, Tyler said firmly. If anything, it makes what you've accomplished more impressive. You've been ruling an empire on hard mode this whole time. That actually got a genuine laugh out of her. Hard mode. I like that. She met his eyes again. All right. I'll let you rebuild it. Update it. Make it bearable. But I have conditions. Name them. The basic design stays the same. The imperial crests, the symbolic elements, those remain. I need it to still be recognizable as the chair from the Viridian supernova. Can you work within those parameters? Tyler's mind was already spinning with ideas, sketching designs in his head. Absolutely. I can keep the shell, the aesthetics, all of it. It's the internal components that need replacing. New anti-grav emitters, updated power distribution, proper ergonomic support, maybe some adaptive cushioning that responds to pressure points. He caught himself getting carried away. Sorry. I get excited about projects. Don't apologize, Calithria said, and there was warmth in her voice now. It's refreshing to meet someone who still has passion for their work. Most of my engineers are so terrified of making mistakes that they've forgotten how to innovate. Yeah, about that, Tyler said. I've been meaning to mention, your ship has a lot of small problems that nobody seems to be addressing. Nothing critical yet, but the kind of thing that becomes critical if you ignore it long enough. Calithria sighed. Let me guess. Everyone's too afraid to report issues because they think it reflects badly on their competence. Basically, yeah. That, Calithria said quietly, is exactly the kind of crack in my empire I was talking about. The distance. The fear. The inability to just communicate honestly. She looked at Tyler with something that might have been gratitude. You and your daughter may have stumbled into my life by accident, but I'm beginning to think it was the kind of accident I desperately needed. The announcement hit the imperial court like a bomb. Empress Calithria would attend the Grand Council in person, something she hadn't done in over 50 years. Even more shocking, she would bring her human guests. Tyler watched the chaos unfold through the observation deck's communication screens, seeing high-ranking officials scrambling, protocol officers having near breakdowns, and the traditionalist faction practically vibrating with barely contained outrage. This is insane, Tyler said, pacing back and forth while Mia colored pictures at a nearby table, oblivious to the political earthquake her presence was causing. You're deliberately poking the hornet's nest. These traditionalists already want you gone, and now you're showing up with humans? They'll lose their minds. Calithria watched him pace with an expression that might have been amusement. That's exactly the point. I'm tired of shadows and whispers. If they want to challenge me, they'll do it in the open where everyone can see. No more conspiracies. No more poison in the dark. And Mia? You want to bring a 5-year-old into that? She'll be under my personal protection. Nothing will happen to her, I promise you. Calithria's voice was firm, absolute. Besides, I need my mechanic with me. You're going to help me make an entrance they'll never forget. Tyler stopped pacing and looked at her. Really looked at her. There was something different in her eyes now, something that hadn't been there when they first met. Determination, yes, but also something lighter. Hope, maybe. Or possibly just the relief of someone who'd finally decided to stop pretending everything was fine. What exactly did you have in mind? He asked. Calithria's smile was sharp enough to cut steel. Show them that their eternal, unchanging Empress can still surprise them. The next 72 hours were the most intense of Tyler's life, and that included the time he'd rebuilt the ship's reactor core while it was still running. He practically lived in the Imperial workshop, surrounded by technology that made his hands shake with excitement and his mind spin with possibilities. The wheelchair project consumed him completely. He didn't just repair it. That would have been too simple, too ordinary. Instead, he tore it down to its basic framework and rebuilt it from the inside out. Human engineering had always been about adaptability, about making systems that could handle whatever got thrown at them. Imperial technology was powerful but rigid, designed for specific purposes and rarely deviating from those parameters. Tyler combined both approaches, creating something entirely new. The anti-grav emitters were replaced with a modular system that could adjust on the fly. The power distribution network was redesigned to be 3 times more efficient while using a quarter of the energy. He added adaptive ergonomics that would respond to Calithria's body, shifting and adjusting to eliminate pressure points before they could cause pain. The control interface was rebuilt to be intuitive rather than complex, responding to thought patterns through a neural link Tyler adapted from Imperial medical technology. But he didn't stop there. Because this wasn't just about mobility anymore, it was about making a statement. He added ceremonial lighting that could shift and flow with Calithria's moods, making the chair itself seem alive. The imperial crests were preserved but enhanced, holographic elements making them appear to float and shimmer. The frame was reinforced with composite materials that were simultaneously lighter and stronger than the original construction. And, because Tyler was still a dad who thought about worst-case scenarios, he built in defensive capabilities, shield generators, emergency protocols, even a limited weapon system that Calithria would probably never need but would definitely appreciate having. Mia helped where she could, which mostly meant handing Tyler tools and asking endless questions about what everything did. She also insisted on adding her own touch, a small hidden compartment where Calithria could keep secret things like snacks or pictures or whatever makes you happy. Tyler left it in. The Empress of 40-star systems deserved a place to keep candy if she wanted it. On the third night, delirious with exhaustion and running on his 8th cup of coffee, Tyler finally stepped back from the completed wheelchair. It was beautiful. It was powerful. It was everything he'd imagined and more. Calithria came to the workshop to see it, and Tyler watched her face as she took in what he'd created. For a long moment she said nothing. Then, slowly, she approached the chair and ran one clawed hand along its frame. "It's perfect," she whispered. "Try it," Tyler urged. "See how it feels." She transferred from her old wheelchair to the new one, and Tyler saw the exact moment the adaptive ergonomics kicked in. Her eyes widened, her posture shifted, and something that might have been a sob caught in her throat. "No pain," she said, her voice thick with emotion. "For the first time in 3 centuries, there's no pain." Tyler felt his own eyes getting wet. "Good. That's how it should be. Now try the movement controls." What followed was like watching someone learn to dance after years of being bound. The chair responded to Calithria's thoughts, moving with a grace and fluidity that her old wheelchair had never possessed. It glided, it spun, it elevated and lowered with perfect precision. When she activated the ceremonial lighting, the entire workshop filled with golden light that seemed to emanate from her very being. "This isn't just a wheelchair," Calithria said, spinning in place with obvious joy. "This is a throne. A battle station. A declaration." She looked at Tyler with something that might have been wonder. "How did you do this?" "Human stubbornness," Tyler said with a tired grin. "Same thing that got me this far in a dying ship. We're good at refusing to accept that something can't be done." He gestured to the chair. "Plus, I had good motivation. Nobody deserves to suffer in silence, especially not while trying to run an empire." Calithria was quiet for a moment, testing various features, exploring the capabilities of her new mobility system. Then she looked at Tyler with an expression he couldn't quite read. "The Grand Council meets in 2 days," she said. "The traditionalists will make their move then. Admiral Vorthax will call for my retirement, citing my isolation and detachment as evidence I'm unfit to rule. He'll have the votes. He's been working toward this for months. So why are we walking into his trap?" "Because it's not a trap if you see it coming," Calithria said with that sharp smile returning. "And because I'm done playing by their rules. They want to see if the Empress can still lead? I'll show them exactly what leadership looks like." Mia wandered over, rubbing her eyes sleepily. "Is it finished? Can we go to bed now? I'm tired and Bunny is tired too." She held up her stuffed rabbit as evidence. "Yes, sweetheart," Tyler said, scooping her up. "We can go to bed now." "Good," Mia yawned. "Because tomorrow's a big day, right? We're going to the council thing where you're gonna show all those mean people that being different doesn't make you weak." She looked at Calithria. "You're gonna be amazing." "I know it." Tyler felt his heart squeeze. Out of the mouths of children came wisdom that adults spent lifetimes trying to relearn. Calithria reached out and gently touched Mia's small hand. "Thank you, little one. I'll do my best not to disappoint you." "You won't," Mia said with absolute confidence. "Because you're our friend and friends don't let each other down." As Tyler carried his sleeping daughter back to their quarters, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to witness something extraordinary. The traditionalists thought they were forcing out a weak, isolated empress. They had no idea what was coming. They'd never seen an empress who'd remembered how to be human. The Grand Council chamber on Draconis Prime was carved from a single massive crystal that had taken thousands of years to form naturally in the planet's core. Light refracted through it in ways that made the entire space seem to pulse with inner fire. Representatives from 40-star systems filled the tiered seating, their scales gleaming in every color imaginable: emerald greens, deep crimsons, midnight blues, and burnished golds. The air hummed with tension thick enough to cut with a knife. Tyler stood in the protected gallery with Mia, watching as Calithria made her entrance. The new wheelchair glided into the chamber with impossible grace, the ceremonial lighting making it seem like she was surrounded by her own personal constellation. The effect was breathtaking. Conversations died mid-sentence as every eye turned toward her. This wasn't the distant, untouchable Empress they remembered. This was something else entirely. Something real and powerful and undeniably present. Admiral Vorthax, a massive reptilian with scales like polished obsidian, stood near the central podium. He recovered quickly from his surprise, his lip curling into something that might have been a sneer. The Eternal Empress graces us with her presence at last. And she brings pets. Tyler felt Mia stiffen beside him, but he squeezed her hand gently. Stay calm, he thought. Let Calithria handle this. I bring advisors, Calithria corrected, her voice carrying through the crystal chamber with crystal clarity. Something you might try sometime, Admiral, instead of surrounding yourself with yes-men too frightened to tell you the truth. The chamber rippled with murmurs. Vorthax's eyes narrowed. The truth is that you've become isolated, detached from your people. You haven't attended this council in 50 years. You've retreated into your flagship, making decisions from a distance, showing weakness at every turn. For the good of the Empire, I move that the Eternal Empress be granted an honorable retirement. Seconded, came voices from the Traditionalist faction, scattered throughout the chamber. Calithria's loyalists tried to counter-argue, but Tyler could see they were fighting a losing battle. Vorthax had been building toward this moment for months, maybe years. He had the votes lined up. The motion would pass unless something changed dramatically. That's when Calithria did something no one expected. She laughed. It wasn't a polite, courtly laugh. It was genuine, almost delighted, the sound of someone who'd just heard the punchline to a joke they'd been waiting for. The chamber fell silent, confused. You're absolutely right, Admiral, Calithria said, still smiling. I did become isolated. I did retreat. I let myself be placed on a pedestal so high that I forgot what the ground felt like. I wore my pain like armor and called it strength. I pushed everyone away and told myself it was dignity. She paused, letting her words sink in. But here's what you didn't count on. I learned. I changed. I remembered something crucial that you've apparently forgotten. And what's that? Vorthax demanded. That strength isn't about never showing weakness. It's about facing your vulnerabilities and leading anyway. Tyler watched as Calithria gestured toward him and Mia in the gallery. These humans crashed into my life by accident. A mechanic and his daughter, running from medical debt that should never have existed, in a ship held together by determination and improvisation. And you know what they did? They reminded me how to be a person. How to accept help. How to fix what's broken instead of pretending it's fine. She activated a holographic display that filled the chamber, showing data Tyler recognized, all the maintenance reports he'd compiled over the past weeks. Ships with critical failures. Systems compensating for problems no one dared report. An entire fleet slowly degrading because people were too afraid to admit anything wasn't perfect. This is what isolation creates, Calithria continued. Fear. Silence. Problems hidden until they become catastrophic. And before you claim this is my failure alone, Admiral, let me show you something interesting. The display shifted, focusing on Vorthax's own flagship. Tyler had to suppress a smile. He'd suspected, but seeing the data confirmed it was satisfying in a way he couldn't quite explain. Your ship, Admiral, has 47 critical failures waiting to happen. Your quantum drive has stress fractures. Your life support has redundancy systems that haven't been tested in decades. Your hull integrity is compromised in 17 locations. All of this hidden by crews too terrified to report problems because you've made competence and perfection synonymous. Calithria's voice was sharp now, cutting. You've mistaken fear for respect, and it's literally causing your ships to crumble from the inside. The chamber erupted. Representatives shouting questions, demanding explanations, turning on each other. Vorthax's support was visibly cracking, moderate members suddenly realizing they'd been lied to about the state of the fleet. But Vorthax wasn't finished. Tyler saw it in his eyes, the desperate calculation of someone who'd gambled everything and was about to lose. The Admiral's hand moved toward a communication device at his belt. No, Tyler breathed, recognizing the gesture. He's going to. All Loyalist forces, Vorthax broadcast on military channels. This is Admiral Vorthax. The Empress has been compromised by alien influence. I'm invoking emergency protocols. Secure the planet. Secure the Council. We're taking back our empire. The chamber descended into chaos. Alarms blared. Through the crystal walls, Tyler could see warships moving into position around Draconis Prime, Ships loyal to Vorthax, ready to enforce his coup through military force. Mia grabbed Tyler's hand. Daddy, what's happening? Nothing good, sweetheart, Tyler said, pulling her close. But Calithria remained calm, almost serene. She activated her own communication systems, broadcasting on all frequencies. All fleet personnel, this is Empress Calithria. Admiral Vorthax has initiated an illegal coup. You have a choice. Follow orders from an admiral who's hidden critical safety failures from you for years, who values appearances over your actual lives. Or follow your Empress who's asking you to think for yourselves. Check your own ships. Look at the data I'm sharing. See the truth for what it is. What happened next would be talked about in Imperial history for centuries. Across the fleet, crews who'd been living with hidden problems suddenly had permission to acknowledge them. Engineers who'd been terrified to report issues found themselves empowered to act. And when they looked at the data Calithria shared, when they saw how their own ships had been compromised by a culture of fear and silence, something shifted. One by one, ships in Vorthax's fleet began standing down. Not all of them, some remained loyal to their admiral. But enough. More than enough. The decisive moment came when Vorthax's own flagship, the Relentless Dawn, suffered a catastrophic failure. The stress fractures Tyler had identified finally gave way under the strain of combat positioning. The ship didn't explode, nothing that dramatic. It simply stopped. Life support flickered. Weapons went offline. The mighty flagship of the traditionalist fleet became a drifting liability. Calithria's voice cut through the chaos one more time. This is what happens when you hide problems instead of fixing them. You wanted to know if I'm fit to lead? I just prevented a civil war while your own ship failed beneath you because you were too proud to admit it needed maintenance. Stand down, Admiral. There's been enough waste today. Vorthax, aboard his crippled flagship, had no choice. His support had evaporated. His military option had failed. He surrendered. The council chamber was silent except for the sound of breathing, hundreds of beings trying to process what had just happened. Calithria turned her wheelchair to face the assembly. You wanted me to retire? She said quietly. Here's my answer. I'm changing how I rule. No more divine distance. No more pretending I'm some eternal monument instead of a living being. From now on, this empire will be built on honest communication, on solving problems before they become catastrophes, on seeing each other as people instead of just positions. She gestured to her new wheelchair. I'm still your Empress. I'm still in this chair. But I'm done pretending either of those things makes me less than I am. Over the following weeks, Tyler watched as Calithria implemented sweeping changes. An advisory council that included non-reptilian species. Fleet-wide maintenance protocols that encouraged reporting problems instead of hiding them. Regular public appearances where the Empress made herself accessible to her people. The Empire resisted at first. Change always met resistance. But something fundamental had shifted. Seeing their Empress as real, as someone who struggled and persevered and admitted when she needed help, made her more inspiring, not less. Through it all, Tyler and Mia remained aboard the Eternal Claw. The rusty promise was fully repaired now, better than it had ever been. They could leave any time they wanted. But they didn't. One evening, Calithria found Tyler in the workshop, tinkering with some new project. Your ship is ready, she said. Has been for weeks. Why are you still here? Tyler set down his tools and met her eyes. Thing is, we've been looking for home. And Mia thinks she found it. As if summoned, Mia appeared from behind a workbench, her stuffed rabbit clutched tight. Can we stay? Daddy could keep fixing things, there's lots of things to fix. And you're still sad sometimes, and I don't think you should be alone anymore. She searched for words with that earnest intensity only children possess. We could be like family. Not replacing my mommy or anything. Just, new family. The kind you choose instead of the kind you're born with. Tyler saw something crack in Calithria's ancient eyes. I've had courts and councils for 2,000 years, she said quietly. But I haven't had a family in longer than I can remember. I can't offer you much, Tyler added. Just a mechanic with a kid and more stubbornness than sense. But if you need people who see you instead of a legend, who'll tell you when you're being stubborn, who'll remember your birthday? He trailed off, then found his courage. We stay because we want to. Because you're not just an Empress to us. You're Calithria. Our friend. Maybe our family. Can we stay? Mia asked again, her voice small and hopeful. Calithria, Empress of the Dragon Empire, ruler of 40 star systems, living legend for 2 millennia, felt tears in her ancient eyes. Yes, she whispered. Please stay. 1 year later, the Eternal Claw orbited a new world, part of Calithria's hands-on leadership approach. Tyler ran the Imperial Maintenance Corps, teaching young engineers that admitting problems was the first step to solving them. Mia attended the flagship school, making friends with Imperial heirs and commoner children alike, treating everyone with the same irreverent affection. And Calithria celebrated her birthday surrounded by noise, chaos, and love. Handmade decorations that Mia insisted on creating herself. Off-key singing that made Tyler wince and Calithria laugh until her sides hurt. A cake that was slightly lopsided but tasted perfect. The Dragon Empire hadn't become weaker under its changed Empress. It had become something better. Something real. And sometimes, late at night in the observation deck, you could find an unlikely family watching the stars together. An Empress in a wheelchair, a grease-stained mechanic, and a little girl with a stuffed rabbit, talking about what they'd fix tomorrow. The legend had learned to be human. And in doing so, she'd become truly legendary.